Hi everybody, Sandra here from Create in Spain with a relatively short video, you'll be glad to know. I have a piece of plastic here which is kind of like a thick acetate. It's called book binding plastic and I bought an A4 pack of it and it's great stuff. It's a little bit thicker, heavier than, for example, the stencil plastic that you get for silhouette cameos and whatever. It cuts really well and it has multiple uses. Now, as you can see, I've cut out a lot of little shapes. Now, first off, I could use this pretty obviously as a stencil. That would be one use for it. That's not why I cut these pieces, however. So I have a whole load of pieces here. And the reason I've cut these is because I quite like from time to time to do a little bit of embossing for backgrounds. Now I can do embossing on my cutting machine, but it does take quite a while to do it, and I wouldn't say it's the quickest thing to do, and I happen to have a manual embossing machine. I've got an Evolution Advance from We Are Memory Keepers, a few years old now, but it's still going, and that is usually what I would choose to emboss with. And quite often I would choose to emboss with a stencil I already have cut out. However, my embossing machine only has a plate which is about so wide, it's just about, I think it's about 15 centimetres. So if I have a stencil, which is 15 centimetres already, with a border on it, my pattern isn't quite big enough if, for example, I want to do a square 15 by 15 card or something like that. So I thought to myself the other day, I thought, yeah, I fancy doing a little bit of embossing, so I'll have a play. Now, frequently when I make something for embossing, I use a heavy duty cardstock. But the problem with cardstock is that it does actually compress, and it's fine for the first use, and may well be fine for a few more uses. But eventually the cardstock compresses and it's not as thick as it was. This stuff, of course, doesn't compress in the same way, and it does create a pretty good embossed surface. So here, for example, and the trouble is I don't know how well you can see this. Let me just see if I can zoom in. I don't know if you can actually see. I can't see it in the light at the moment, but that is actually quite well embossed, and all I did was I scattered some of these around my card. Now the sandwich that I used, if I could just grab my base here. Okay, so here's the base for the machine. What I have is a silicone mat, because this one works on a slightly different system, I think, to the big shots and what have you. So it's got a silicone mat, and then you put your card on, and it obviously would have been this way round for me. And then you just scatter these bits around. Now, because my top plate broke, I just cut up pieces of a self-healing cutting mat to use, and it works very well, thanks very much. And then I put it through, just test it a little bit to see how much pressure I need to put on, and I put it through. And so I got some pretty nice embossed images here. But what I wanted to show you is that you don't have to stick to just the one layer, because if you double them up, if you put one over another, you get an even nicer effect, because you get this double embossing. So you can overlap your items, you can, for example, you could put a large heart down and a small heart down. But what you would do in that particular case, you would get your small heart, you would put that in place, and then you would put your big heart over the top. And when you've put it through the embossing machine, it's of course reversed, so that you have the smaller heart sticking up more than you have the big heart sticking up. And the other thing that I did was some little flowers. I've actually stuck these together, and I thought that would be a fun thing to do. So you have a double layer flower. So I've not actually put these through the embossing machine yet, but I'll do that and then I'll show you the result. So I've just laid down my plastic pieces in a fairly random pattern on a piece of scrap card, and I'm going to run that through the machine. Now the only problem you have with this is that they tend to be static, so if you've got very small pieces, like the smaller hearts, they're probably going to stick to your fingers and not want to come off. I'm always dropping little bits of plastic everywhere because, you know, it does have a habit, it sticks to your clothing or your skin or whatever, and yeah, it just falls off eventually. But hopefully you can see that this is rather nicely embossed. And if you look at the other side, you have this beautiful double layer embossing, which if you buy embossing folders is pretty expensive to do. But there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do this with a thick craft card or whatever, make a few flowers up. You could possibly even do 3 layers, and you can stick your pieces together, and then you can just scatter them as you wish around whatever piece of card that you want to emboss. The advantage is that if you have an unusual shape, or if you just want to emboss part of the front of a front panel, you can do it. You don't have to emboss an entire front panel by using a stencil type or an embossing folder. So I think this is great, and you can also, if you want to use these as embellishments, you can colour them with alcohol markers if you like and stick them onto your cards. You can colour them with alcohol inks or acrylic paints. You can cover them with UV gel and make them dimensional. You can add a glue over the top, and you can put mica powders on. You can do all sorts of things with these. But from a point of view of using them for embossing tools, they're great. And just store them until the next time that you use them. Another great point is, of course, these will squash up into a very small space. They won't get folded, and they will only need a small container to put them in. That is my tip for today. I hope you found that useful. Please take the time to like the video, and I will see you again soon. Take care now.